Many of you have requested that I should do movie reviews or what's my top 20 favorite video games, things like that. Well, today I'm going to show you my top 50 favorite films. Now, granted, it's kind of hard to figure out what are your favorite movies. There's just so many good ones, but hopefully you guys will enjoy and agree with maybe half of my top 50. And granted, just because they're my top 50 favorites doesn't mean they're like the best movies of all time, although I think there are a lot of these movies that are the best of all time, but that's just my personal opinion. But anyways, without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy and let's get to it. Number 50, Broken Arrow. Now I know there's nothing special about the movie, it's your typical action movie, but when you have John Travolta and Kristen Slater together, can't go wrong, right? But no, even to this day, it's just one of those movies that still entertains me, and that's why it made number 50 on my list. Number 49, The Birds. Now, when I first saw this as a kid, it really scared me and made me terrified of birds. And I know some people may be like, the attack of killer birds, how lame, right? Well, think about it. Imagine if birds in real life attacked us humans. How terrifying would that be? So I always felt that was a very unique concept. But that's why it's number 49 on my list. And of course, Alfred Hitchcock, the man, right? Number 48, Commando. Another movie that's not too special to talk about unless you're like me and you're a big Arnold Schwarzenegger fan and you just want to see him just kick ass. And that's all it is. Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter gets kidnapped and, well, he goes, rescues her, and whoops some ass. And it's just like that old saying, don't fuck with daddy's little girl. Number 47, Godzilla. This is the movie that got me started liking monster movies, especially later when Godzilla would face all these random monsters. It just got me more and more interested and just hooked. Now, the special effects back then weren't anything to rave about, but I still appreciate them. And even though I may like some of the later Godzilla movies, I'm still picking the original over all of them because that's where it all started and I just highly appreciate it. Number 46, The Blob. Another monster movie, right? I will warn you, you will see some monster movies on my list. I'm just into monster movies. But I always enjoyed The Blob. It's just a blob. It eats people, it gets bigger, it eats more people, and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It just gets out of control. And I always enjoyed the kill scenes. Is like, as people are getting eaten by the blob, they mutilate. And I don't know, I guess I was really into that. So it got gruesome at times, and that's why it's number 46 on my list. Number 45, Bad Boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? All I can say about this movie, I enjoyed the action, and I really enjoyed the comedy with this movie, especially pairing Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. Oh boy, was that a blast. But yeah, that's why it's number 45 on my list. Go check it out. Number 44, Leprechaun. Now, I feel like you guys are judging me on this one, but it's just one of those movies. I make a tradition. I watch it every Halloween. I really enjoy it. Nothing too special, but I'll tell you, that little leprechaun, God. Oh man, he is really hilarious. He kind of reminds me of the Wishmaster in a way, just his dark humor. You know, like before he kills people. I don't know, very creative at times. But that's why it made number 44 on my list. Number 43, The Ghost in the Darkness. Now, a lot of people I feel like underrate this movie, but I highly enjoy it. I think the action's really good, and it is based off of a true story. It's about these two legendary lions that have killed lots and lots of people. I can't remember the exact count, but probably 100 or so, which is a lot, especially from a lion. And of course, Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas play in the movie, and they play outstanding roles, which makes the movie even better. But that's why those two lions were referred as the Ghost in the Darkness. Number 42, 1982, The Thing. Now this is probably one of the first goriest movies that I've ever seen, and all it is this alien thing that has the ability to mimic to any living object that it touches, and that's how it gets close to its prey, and you get pretty much the gist of it. But yes, it's very gory, and it's crazy the things it turns into. It's a very crazy movie, and Kurt Russell also plays in it, which does an outstanding job, and that's why it is number 42 on my list. Number 41, E.T. Home. Yes, E.T. Now, I feel like this movie doesn't need an introduction. I think we pretty much all know what E.T. is. It's just one of those great classics that we all watched as a kid, and it just holds a special place in our hearts. At least it does for me. Maybe not for you, but for me it does. Number 40, Predator. Another Schwarzenegger movie. Anyways, the premise of this movie is very simple. Arnold and his team are on a rescue mission, and then later find out they're being hunted by this predator creature, which has the ability to turn invisible and has all these high-tech weapons. And it just becomes a fight for survival. Very simple, but very entertaining and enjoyable, and that's why it's number 40 on my list. Number 39, Spaceballs. The only thing I need to say about this movie is if you're into Star Wars, space, silly comedy, then this movie is for you. There's a lot of parts where you'll just flat out laugh, a lot of silly moments, and that's why it's number 39 on my list. Oh, and the theme song is pretty awesome too. The Spaceballs, watch out! Number 38, Jumanji. Now what I love about this movie is it's about this board game called Jumanji. And what happens is you play it, things will appear, which means bad things end up happening. So in order for the bad things to go away, you have to finish the game. But in order to do that, you obviously got to continue playing the game. So more things appear, more bad things happen, and well, you get the gist of it. It's very entertaining, and that's why it's number 38 on my list. Number 37, Night of the Living Dead. Now, not much to say about this movie. It's just your typical zombie movie. But for some reason, I really like this one. I can't really point it out, but I really enjoy it. And I try to make a habit on watching it every year. And that's why it's number 37 on my list. Just a great classic. Number 36, El Dorado. Now, I will admit, I'm not necessarily into the Western movies per se, but for some reason, I really enjoy watching this one. I don't know, it's just very entertaining to me, and well, John Wayne's in it, and I have to admit, he's actually one of my favorite actors of all time. So kind of ironic, right? I'm not much into the Western, but yet I love John Wayne. Number 35, Independence Day. The only thing I have to say about this movie is it's got great actors, it's got great action, the special effects are really cool, and in my opinion, it's probably one of the best sci-fi movies out there, and that's why it's number 35 on my list. Number 34, Dracula. Now I have to admit, first time that I saw this movie, I felt it was very slow paced and even got me bored. But then I glared into Dracula's eyes and he cast his spell on me, bringing me back for more and more views. That's because Bela Lugosi played as Dracula, and he is by far the best Dracula that I ever saw. He is Dracula. And that's why this movie is number 34 on my list. Number 33, The Spy Who Loved Me. Now I have to note, I'm a huge James Bond fan, but out of all the Bond movies, this one in particular is one of my favorites, mainly because it has my favorite villain, Jaws. And he's like this gigantic dude with metal teeth, and he's strong as an ox, and every time Bond encounters Jaws, the fights are epic, and that's why it is number 33 on my list. It's great stuff. Number 32, Aladdin. And I have to say, this is the only cartoon movie on my list. And all I have to say about Aladdin is I used to watch it all the time as a kid, and even today as a grown-up, I can still sit down and enjoy watching it. And I love the genie. He's awesome. Number 31, Central Intelligence. And yes, I actually have a newer movie on this list. All I have to say about this movie is I laughed my ass off from start to finish. So if you're the type that wants to laugh your ass off, check this movie out, and The Rock is awesome. Number 30, The Fog. Another movie that terrified me as a kid, and all it's about is this fog which has these evil spirits inside the fog, and if you get close to the fog, you get killed by these spirits. And it was just a very creepy movie, very well done. I enjoyed the concept, and that's why it's number 30 on my list. Great movie. Number 29, The Mummy. And I really like this movie because it has something to do with Egypt mythology, and I just thought it was a very well done movie. I really enjoyed The Mummy, and I thought Brendan Fraser played a good role, and that's why it's number 29 on my list. Number 28, Mortal Kombat! Yes, Mortal Kombat. And you know, it's funny, a lot of people bash this movie, but I actually thought it was a well done movie, considering, I mean, it's far from being a masterpiece. I thought it was really good and very entertaining, and I really enjoyed the fight scenes. Now, I will note though, Mortal Kombat 2 Annihilation was a piece of shit, so that one's trash, but I thought the first one was very good, and that's why it's number 28 on my list. Number 27, Top Gun. And I have to admit, I'm not much of a Tom Cruise fan, but I thought he played an outstanding role in this movie, and it also has Val Kilmer that played as the Iceman, and you know, that's all I have to say. Oh, and it has my favorite song of all time in the movie by Kenny Loggins. Highway to the Danger Zone. Number 26, Jaws. If you're like me and into killer shark movies, then this movie's for you. Just a great classic. And oh, the acting in this movie is outstanding, very top notch, and that's why this movie is number 26 on my list. Number 25, Nightmare on Elm Street, the trilogy. Now, I always thought this was a unique concept. It's about this serial killer named Freddy Krueger, and he attacks people in their dreams and eventually kills them off. And some of the methods that he uses is really hilarious when killing people off. It's very entertaining, and that's why it's number 25 on my list. Number 24, Tombstone, a rare Western movie that made my list. The only thing I have to say about this movie is it has a very strong cast. I mean, let's face it, when you have Val Kilmer, Kurt Russell, Bill Paxton, Sam Elliott in the same movie, you can't expect any less than greatness. And that's why it's number 24 on my list. It's a great movie. Number 23, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and When Nature Calls, a tie. And even though I think the first one is a lot better, the reason why I had to tie it with When Nature Calls is, to me, it's just as funny, but when he came out of that rhino's asshole, oh God, that just did it to me. But anyways, the concept of the movie is very simple. It's basically this animal pet detective, and he's just crazy. That's all there is to it. He's got a screw loose. But that's why it made number 23 on my list. It's just hilarious to me. Number 22, Indiana Jones, the trilogy. Now, I've always enjoyed movies like this. It's just this relic hunter named Indiana Jones, which is played by Harrison Ford, does an outstanding job. And he just goes on all these crazy adventures to find relics. And that's really all there is to say. Great classics. Definitely highly recommend checking out. Number 21, the 1933 King Kong and 2017 Kong Skull Island, a tie. And the reason why a tie, like, I do appreciate the original, and just like with Godzilla, it got me started liking monster movies. And so I always appreciated that. And Kong Skull Island, it's one of those recent movies that it just flat out entertained me from start to finish. Just an outstanding movie. I thought they did a great job with King Kong, and that's why it's a tie at number 21 on my list. Number 20, Jurassic World. I saw this in theaters, and I have to say, I thought it was a very well done movie. I thought it was a very strong sequel to Jurassic Park, and it was nice to see the park again, except obviously much more improved. And what did they do to also improve it? They make this whole new dinosaur that was a lot more powerful than the T-Rex, and well, I don't know, when you do stuff like that, you know, it just happens to break free out of its cage and yeah, all hell breaks loose. But yeah, I thought it was a very entertaining movie and that's why it's number 20 on my list. It's a great movie. Number 19, Gremlins. And I have to admit, I haven't seen this movie in a long time, but I do remember enjoying it. It's very entertaining and I'll tell you, those little green bastards, man, just causing so much havoc. And I don't know, just the things they do are very hysterical, and that's why it made number 19 on my list. Number 18, Halloween. Now there's nothing too special about this movie, it's just your typical slasher movie, but just something about it, I really enjoy it. I really love Michael Myers, and I love the theme song. The theme song is one of my favorites of all time, and maybe that's what did it for me. But it's just one of those movies, I try to make a tradition to watch it on every Halloween, and that's why it's number 18 on my list. Just a great Halloween classic. Number 17, Star Wars, the trilogy, 4, 5, and 6 to be precise. Now I have to admit, I'm not much of a Star Wars fan, nor do I really know much of anything about Star Wars. But even that being said, I still enjoy these movies. I mean, just the fact that the visuals, the characters, the storyline are just so top-notch, ahead of its time. I mean, they're just masterpieces. And that's why it made number 17 on my list. It's just that great. Number 16, The Running Man. Another Schwarzenegger movie. What a surprise, right? But no, I really love the plot of this movie. It's basically about this TV show called The Running Man. And what it is, there's these selected prisoners that are in this show, and their goal is to make it to the end to earn their freedom, but they're being pursued by these crazy maniacs that are trying to kill them. It's a very entertaining movie, and I don't know, I just really enjoy it, and that's why it's number 16 on my list. Number 15, Batman. And I feel like he doesn't need much of an introduction. I think we all know who Batman is. He's just a badass crime-fighting machine with some really cool gadgets, cool mobiles. And I mean, I don't know, I think that's all there is to say. And I really love some of the villains like the Joker. I really love the Joker. And yeah, that's why it's number 15 on my list. It's just great stuff. Number 14, The Wizard of Oz. Now here's a movie that was really ahead of its time. I mean, this movie looked so good. You would have thought this movie was released in the 50s or even the 60s. It just looked that good. The visuals were very gorgeous to look at, the sound quality, the characters, the story, everything about it was superb. And that's why it's number 14 on my list. It's just an outstanding classic. Number 13, Rambo. The premise of this movie is very simple. It's about this Vietnam veteran named John Rambo, and he visited this old town just to go see an old friend, but he was harassed by these cops that apparently had issues with him. And so what does he do? He gives them a taste of their own medicine and all hell breaks loose. And you know, it's like that old saying, that's what you get for messing around with a war hero. Number 12, GoldenEye. And I will say this is my favorite James Bond movie of all time. I just love this movie. It's very entertaining. I love the plot. I love all the characters. Just everything about it I just really enjoy, and that's why it's number 12 on my list. Number 11, The Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now I will say I probably love the Fellowship of the Ring more out of the three, but one's not complete without the others. But in my opinion, they're all equally as good. I just love the visuals and all the creatures and characters in this movie, such as orcs and goblins. You got like these big talking trees and hobbits, wizards, and many more. It's just a very entertaining movie to me, and I just think it's a masterpiece, and that's why it's number 11 on my list. It's really great stuff if you're into that sort of thing. Number 10, Jurassic Park. When I saw this in theaters, this movie just flat out blew my mind. The dinosaurs looked so realistic and terrifying. The cast was very strong. I thought Sam Neill played a really good Dr. Grant, and I really like Jeff Goldblum. He's hysterical to me. But that's why this movie made number 10 on my list. Number 9, The Wizard. And I know, easy. I'm sure many of you are like, oh geez, this movie's ass. How the hell can it make your top 10? Well, hear me out. As a nerd, it has a lot of nostalgic value to me. I mean, it has something to do with video games and arcades. Shows Universal Studios, and it shows the old King Kong ride, which that's one of my favorite rides of all time. And towards the end, these kids participate in this Armageddon tournament, which shows Super Mario Bros. 3. Just one of those nostalgic things to me. Even to this day, I really do enjoy this movie, and even though it's a mess, it is still number 9 on my list. Number 8. Ghostbusters. And all I have to say about this movie is, what an awesome concept. 4 guys capturing ghosts. And it was very cool to see all these different types of ghosts. And of course, the Ghostbusters themselves are outstanding. And that's why this movie is number 8 on my list. Number 7. The Adventures of Robin Hood. Now, I've always been a fan of the story of Robin Hood, but out of all the Robin Hood movies, this is my favorite. It's very entertaining, very strong cast, and that's why it's number 7 on my list. It is a great classic. Number 6. Rocky. The plot of this movie is very simple. It's just about this small-time boxer named Rocky who gets a rare chance to fight the champ. But what makes this movie are the characters. You have Rocky, Adrian, Apollo, Mickey, Paulie. I mean, what an outstanding variety of personalities. And that's why this movie is number 6 on my list. It's just a great movie. Number 5. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Another Schwarzenegger movie. What a surprise, right? But no, really, out of all the Schwarzenegger movies, this one, in my opinion, is very superior due to the fact that the special effects, the actors, the action, just everything about it is superb. And that's why it's number 5 on my list. It is known to be one of the best sci-fi movies out there. Number 4. Alien and Aliens. A tie. Now, even though I like Aliens a little more than Alien, I had to tie them because they're both 2 different genres. The first one is more of a suspenseful thriller survival movie where it just focuses on one alien. And the second one is more on the action side where it deals with more than one alien. And I also love the face huggers. I just really like the concept, how they latch onto your face, laying an egg inside their host. And that's why it's number 4 on my list. They're great alien movies. Number 3. Back to the Future. Now here's a concept I really love. Time travel. But it's more than just that. I mean, it has time travel, it has comedy, it has action, it even has high school. But no, it's just an outstanding movie. It has great actors. I love the characters, and that's why it's number 3 on my list. It is a masterpiece movie. Number 2. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Now I have to note, I'm a huge Abbott Costello fan. But out of all their movies, this one is by far my favorite. I mean, it has all the Universal monsters. It has Dracula. It has the Wolfman. It has Frankenstein. It even has the Invisible Man towards the very end of the movie, but still has him. But no, it's just a very exciting movie, and that's why it's number 2 on my list. Number 1. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, I'm sure I've surprised many of you guys and probably wondering, how does this make number 1 on my list? I mean, it is a good movie. It's not great, but it is good. But the reason why this made number 1 is just the fact that I'm a huge Ninja Turtles fan. As a kid, I used to collect all the Ninja Turtle toys. I watched the cartoon series, which is, by the way, my favorite cartoon series of all time. And even on Halloween, I would dress up as a Ninja Turtle or a pirate. But no, it's just one of those things that really holds a special place in my heart. And as far as the movie goes, like I did thought it was a very good movie. I thought Splinter was well done, the 4 turtles, and Shredder. Shredder, I thought they did an outstanding job with him. The only downfall with that movie, I wish Bebop, Rocksteady were in it, or Krang, Dimension X, Technodrome, you know, all the good stuff. But besides that, it's still, to me, a very good movie, and that's why it's number 1 on my list. E.T. wanna go home, motherfucker, so I can get me some alien pussy.